Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. I am so excited to bring you today someone who is a writer, a producer, director, comedian, filmmaker, photographer, oh my gosh, a drummer, a songwriter, and more. She is so talented in many, many, many ways. One of the things, too, is that she is a co-founder of Premier Radio Network, and that is a division of iHeartMedia. And so this is big. She has a show that is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm going to let her share with you a little bit about that. But she also has a documentary that has been out. It's been on Showtime for 2 years, and it has now reached Amazon Prime. Yes, this is unbelievable. The show is Family Band, The Coswell Story, and you're going to definitely want to learn more if you haven't already seen it. And if you have, you'll want to see it again and again. And without any further ado, there's so much that she's got to share with you about her podcast, her shows, her background. I just love the talents that she has. But with me today is Louise Palanker. Welcome to the show.
So great to be here with you, Rebecca. The film is called Family Band, The Cow Sales Story. So that's the name. That's the name of the family. So in case someone was Googling, I didn't want them to mistype because that can lead you somewhere you don't want to go.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And you're a comedian, and I've heard an intro to one of your shows, and I've got to tell you, you're right. Some things could definitely be misleading and can take you down a rabbit hole.
Who knows? If you wind up watching the Coswell Story, you may learn something that you never even knew you needed. But my film's about the Cowsills, which was an actual family band that was popular in the late 60s. They were teen idols, and they were on all of the variety shows, and Mike Douglas and Merv Griffin and Johnny Carson and everything. And they had a lot of hit records, and then everything sort of fell apart. And they had been my favorite band when I was a little girl. And so I was interested in figuring out what had happened. And that led me to creating a documentary about them.
I think that's really amazing. And a lot of times we really forget how much we can garner from a documentary. And they are actually very engaging when you get into the crux of some things, because real life plots are just amazing. They're very engaging. And so yours, though, ran for 2 years on Showtime.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it took me 8 years to make it.
Oh,
so it should have run for 8 years. But no, that was a labor of love, and we took it to the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. And then from there, some friends of mine helped me get it to William Morris Endeavor Talent Agency. And then we got it in front of Showtime, and they kind of thought this would be good. It's not like, it's a very independent documentary, but when you're watching a documentary, you see a lot of footage that you're not expecting it to be completely perfect, because you know that you're getting an inside view at what happened right here. And almost like when the viewer's watching, the grainier the footage gets, the more you expect, oh, something's going down.
Yes.
Yeah, because if it were so professionally shot, it would be, like, okay, this is regular TV. But like if it gets really grainy, you're like, whoa, what's about to happen? Because someone just picked up a camera and captured something. And documentaries, the eye is forgiving of all kinds of different footage coming in from all kinds of different directions. And it depends on really how are you telling the story? Is it compelling? Is every scene moving the story forward? What's happening with these people? And because I shot the Cowsills for 8 years, while I was filming, stuff happened. The story continued unfolding. And it was like, I had to go to Best Buy and buy a camera because my videographer had moved away, and things were happening that I had to capture myself. And so I think it's a very compelling story that just is the story of the baby boomers, really. I mean, the story goes from Vietnam to Katrina and everything in between, what happens inside of a family that has to project a certain public image, which could be any family that you see at church, and you get their Christmas cards and everything looks wonderful, but you have no idea what's going on. And they kind of like exemplify that because they were a famous family.
This is really interesting. And when you came to create a title, Family Band, The Cowsill Story, I mean, how did you know that that was just the right title that was going to go with that? Because it is very, when you look at it, it speaks volumes.
I think I like a title that tells you what it is. And so not everybody has heard of the Cowsills, but the words family band just bring you like, oh, that sounds fascinating. It's got the words family and the word band. I like both of those things. And so that to me seemed like that needed to be the title. And then colon, a lot of documentaries are like something, and then colon. And
right.
So it's hard to get away from that format when you're making a documentary. I just made a documentary short about a 97-year-old artist. So that one is called, I put her name first because even though people may not know who Margaret Singer is, put her name first because she is the person that it's a 20-minute documentary about Margaret Singer. So I love it. It's Margaret Singer, seeking light. And that just kind of like describes her personality because she's always finding gratitude and finding joy in everything she does. So you would definitely have to read the description to learn more about it being about a 97-year-old artist who escaped the Holocaust and had just a very adventurous, free life doing exactly what she wants to do, which is to create art.
And that sounds very inspirational, that someone can take something away from that and be inspired to do something else.
Absolutely, because she's just a person for whom she didn't follow any of the normal patterns of a young woman in the 20s or 30s or 40s. She just followed her own path. She was kind of like the first bohemian. She didn't want to get married. She didn't want to raise a family. She just kind of wanted to create art. And so everything that she says, you could embroider it into a pillow because her mind, the way it works is just really inspiring. And so I just wanted the viewer to have that opportunity to spend 20 minutes with her because you come away going, wow, I can do whatever. I can follow my bliss. I don't have to conform to a mold that's expected of women or refugees or anybody or whatever people may think I am. I can turn a corner and go in this direction. And it was much more difficult for a young woman to do that in the 1940s than it is today.
Oh, yes. And you're able to capture all of this very well because of your own makeup, the ability that you have to create. And you do this in many, many ways. Your artistic abilities not only are able to be captured in what you do and projected in what you do, but you're able to identify them with other people and then exemplify those things so that other people can actually grasp that. And that's hard for a lot of people to do if they don't have those abilities innate.
Well, when you start with sort of a creative ability, it makes it a lot easier. But I do believe that technology makes it possible for everyone to become a creator. Now, when Margaret was a girl, you had a canvas and you had some sort of instrument to put on the canvas, whether it was oil paints or colors. I don't know what all her mediums have been, but that's old school. You have a canvas, you have some paint, you put it, you can create. But now, no matter what you want to do, whether it's music or even just writing, technology makes it possible for you to take whatever is in your head and not only create it, but also disseminate it. So you put it on YouTube. You can have a radio show like you do. You can have a blog. You can even just on Facebook every day, you can just express yourself. Like, I feel this way and I'm frustrated. And
True.
I don't know. I think that's healthy.
I do too. I really do think it is healthy. And not only that, but there's so much that we can learn from other people. And when we share those things, the other person can identify a little bit easier sometimes that way or through that method. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoy, is being able to share different messages, not only my own, but those like yours, so that people can grow and learn and begin to change things in their lives, or see things from a perspective that they hadn't before, that will enhance something in their life and make it better. And so this is really quite an honor for you to be able to do what you're doing, especially in these people's lives that you are doing the documentaries on, because I think they're probably just as humble as you are right now in doing those about their own life, because sometimes we don't see the things that we're doing like from the perspective that you did when you created the documentary about them. I love it. I absolutely love it. Tell me too about your podcast, your shows.
I guess my show is inspired by what I just sort of illustrated for you, is like the power of technology to help us grow and to help us share. You know, the trick with the one trick with technology and social media, I think that we each have to kind of master, is to not become intimidated or envious of what other people are doing. You know, understand that they're presenting a version of themselves. It doesn't mean that their life is better than yours, or that they're more blessed in any way, because we curate what we present. And so, you know, you can look at somebody's plate of food and think that, oh, well, I don't have that meal. Well, you know, tomorrow you may have that meal, or they're just presenting it to share because it may inspire you as to what you could maybe cook. They're not trying to say, look, I have this and you don't. And
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Some people fall down rabbit holes where they just keep scrolling and they just keep feeling like inferior. And I don't think it's meant to do that to us. And if it's doing that to you, then put it away. Don't look at it right now. Think about what your blessings and what you do have, rather than if social media makes you kind of obsess about what you don't have, then give yourself, boundaries. I can do this for 10 minutes and then I need to put it down and then count my blessings. But my show is called Things I Found Online. And so it's really about looking at life through the lens of the internet, because most of us have some sort of internet identity or some sort of internet habit. You wake up and what do you do? Where do you go? And I want to know all that, because we all see a different internet. And the internet that we see is the internet that the internet has learned that we would like to see.
Yes, yes.
The internet we see is a reflection of what we've taught it we like, because the internet is smart like that. So I want you to come over and be on my show and tell me the internet that you see. Because, for example, a 15-year-old's going to see a different internet. A man's going to see a different internet. It's going to be sports and cars and whatever he's into. I see, right. Like at the moment, the internet thinks I'm obsessed with backpacks, and it's been showing me a lot of backpacks. So maybe I looked at a backpack and now the internet's, oh, this one loves backpacks. Show her more backpacks. Any second now she's going to purchase a backpack. So it's just funny to me. Even if you just bought a backpack, they can still think that you want to see backpacks. It's like, internet, you need to get smarter. I just purchased it.
Yes. Okay, I'm done with that.
I'm done with that.
I'm ready to move on. Do you have a different suggestion for me, like a purse or maybe some accessory that's going to go with this?
Yeah, like what would go with my backpack?
Yes.
You need to get a little bit more
boots. You know,
at least Amazon knows that people who bought backpacks also like, they like pouches. I don't know. So, but yeah, so you see the internet that the internet thinks you want to see. And also, so we have our business internet. We have like how we present ourselves in terms of like our professional life. And we have like, oh, like this person, like, she's interested in reality TV. Like we have whatever we go and watch. And then we have whatever we're sort of selling or presenting to the world. and all of that stuff is really interesting to me. And like, what have people gone and done? Like, I see that you've created this whole branding, and you present yourself and you talk to guests, and that way you get to meet all kinds of different people. So I would say about you, like, you're interested in broadcasting and you're also interested in people.
Yes.
And so that's what you put out to the world. And you figured out a way to do that in ways that, like, maybe 50 years ago, you'd have to go down to the TV station and say, hey, I'm Rebecca, and I'd love to have a show. And they'd be like, well, you can work here at this desk, and then, for 20 years, and then maybe we'll give you a show, once you work your way up. But now it can just be like, hey, I've got this recording equipment and I've got a computer, and everybody's Judy Garland. Like, let's put on a show.
It's true. It's so true. It is so true. And then, as you were telling me about you have your business persona, and then you have your personal persona. And then I thought, there's kind of a sneaky persona for some people too.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about that. How does that present?
Well, being prior law enforcement, so when we would do background investigations and such, we'd also want to check and make sure that there wasn't anything that was illegal or something that would jeopardize someone's position.
You know what I heard? You know what I heard recently that I think is really, really true? The internet knows more about you than your spouse does.
I bet that is 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's a lot of things that go on online that the other person definitely doesn't have.
It could be something you're afraid of. People Google for all kinds of reasons. They're like, oh, is this neighborhood
safe? Too. What is this mark on my leg, or
sure.
whatever. Yeah.
You don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
That's so true too.
No, just show it to a doctor. Don't, it probably will go away within a week. And so wait a week before you panic.
Yes. I mean, yes, it can cause very highs and very lows. And it's very interesting what you mentioned, though, too, is that if there's something social media wise that's causing a source of distress,
right,
not use it. But I liked what you mentioned, too, in that it's a lot of things are intended to inspire you. And so one thing that you mentioned was like people's plates of food. Sometimes people are like, why do I need to see what you're eating? But it does make sense the way that you just presented it. And unless we're talking like we are now, being able to share that, some people won't understand that that's really a good thing. And
one day at Starbucks, I don't get blended drinks. I just get like a hot coffee. So nobody takes a picture of that because it's all, concealed in an opaque cup. But there was someone in front of me that was getting a blended drink and taking a picture of it. And she left, and the barista said to me, I love it when people take pictures of my drinks, because that was her creation.
Oh, yes.
So we're creating. And when you watch a movie or a TV show, there's credits at the end. Everybody's name is on it. But the person that made this computer, his name isn't on it.
True.
He should be just as proud of it. Or the person that made the sidewalk out in front of your house, there's probably some other kid's name scrawled into it when the cement was wet. He didn't make it. Why is he signing it? But it's like whoever made your house, like they should get to kind of sign the cornerstone. I mean, people are proud of what they do. And that's what the internet lets you do. It's like, hey, I made this house. I made a whole house. So on his social media, hopefully the construction guy puts a picture of every house that he contributed towards, because he should be proud of it. People live in it.
100%. We definitely do not give people the credit that is due them. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, if you're in customer service, you will find that you get more complaint calls than you do get praise calls.
I bet you do. That's a good point. Yeah.
And it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. So I'm really excited about your show. You are doing very well with what you do. You also are musically inclined. You're a drummer. Mm-hmm. Do tell us a little bit about that too.
Well, I don't know how or why or from where people get their abilities, but I sort of came to earth as a drummer, and my family was not excited, about this particular gift. So I have no idea where it comes from, but I've just always been drumming and been told stop drumming. So, and I just continued. I would figure out, like with drums, it's like a canvas and a paintbrush, right? Like you can drum anywhere. You don't need drums. So I was just always drumming, and my cousin Jeremy gave me some drumsticks I was maybe 8, and he was 12, and he had a drum set, and I was just like, oh wow. And he had some drumsticks that were kind of warped, so he gave them to me, and I would just drum on pillows and drum on the bed, and until someone would bang on the door and yell stop drumming. So it was always me just trying to figure out a way to drum and not upset everybody around me. But and I wonder sometimes, if I had been encouraged, would I just be on the road with Bon Jovi or something at this point? Like, I don't know if I wouldn't have cultivated, other talents that I have, because that was definitely number one. Like I had to do that. And I can't not drum. So it's sort of a compulsion, and
Neat.
You just kind of teach yourself. And then when you're old enough, you get books, and you learn how to read music by, talking to somebody else. My best friend, Tracy, she was my age, and she had a drum set in her basement, and her parents were like, she wants to drum. So they got her lessons. And so she taught me a lot. And then as soon as I became an adult, I bought a drum set, and it was really funny too, because I finally had a condo, and I came home with my drum set, and I set it up, and I started drumming, and the guy next door started banging on my door, yelling, stop drumming. And I stopped, and I started laughing, because it was like, how grown up does a person, like, do you have to buy a farm? Yeah. Like, I actually was like, do I have to buy a farm in Nebraska? Like, how do people get to drum without bothering other people?
You're actually drumming on the wall to get me to stop drumming.
It was like this, my window looked out on like a patio area, and his condo was across the way. And it was like, he was yelling out his window. I just remember thinking, like, how far away from other people do you have to go before someone's like, hey, nice drumming.
Yes. Keep going. Here's, giving you enthusiasm and encouragement. No, yeah.
Like, drums is one of those instruments where like everybody has to sign up for it before you're allowed to. So now I have a house, and I've got drums everywhere, but you still have to think about it. It's a noisy instrument. And I don't want whatever I'm doing to be bothering anybody else.
No, but you know what? I think the way that you have done it, you have not bothered someone. You've actually done quite the opposite, because I heard recently one of the things that you've put out, Drummer Girl, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about that particular song. It's beautiful.
Well, Drummer Girl is the name of an album. So there's 10 songs on the album. And what I did was, my musical gifts are sort of like spotty. Like, I'm really deep in certain areas and then really shallow in other areas. And I don't know if that's because if I had been allowed to drum, if the rest would have filled in. I always felt such frustration as a child that I wasn't able to drum, that, you would give me a guitar and I would learn it, but I wouldn't learn it as well as I needed to learn it. I wouldn't learn the piano as well as I needed to learn it.
I gotcha.
And so what I did was I actually hired a musician named John Maddox, who has a studio in his garage. And I found him on a website called Thumbtack, where you can put up what you would like. I need somebody to help me make my music, because I've always been writing songs. Like, since I was a little kid, I've always been writing songs, and I had this collection of songs. And I said, I need someone to help me make my music, because I can sing, and I can write harmonies, I can write counter melodies, and I can do all that, but I can't play the instruments well enough. And so would you help me do that? And so for like about, I don't know, maybe like over the course of 2 or 3 years, every Wednesday I would go over to John's and we would work on my music. And he's like a savant at like building studios and creating all these sounds. And he uses a program called Logic, and he goes around the studio plugging things into things. And then like, if I say like, well, how about violin? Like, and he's like, well, you can have a violin sound like you're sitting in the front row, or like you're on the stage, or like you're in the balcony, or like you're in the middle of, like, he has programs that make all these different things. And so you could just imagine it like I was talking about with technology. It's like, it's in my head that, we'll have this counter melody running underneath this, but how about if we do it on a cello? And so we just made the album. And then after we had like 10 songs, I was like, all right, let's put it up on iTunes. And I'm like, the kind of music that I love is like really melody harmony music. Because I'm like a big, like, I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to the Cowsills as a kid, because they're so deep in harmonies, like stacked and stacked and stacked harmonies. And I love all that. And so I think that my music kind of has that kind of like bright harmonic sound to it. Like, hopefully you listen to it, it just makes you happy.
Yes.
And the melodies kind of swim around your brain for the rest of the day. And that's
beautiful. Quite candidly, I could just listen to that and not be doing what I'm doing, because it just
oh, thank you.
When I was playing, yes, because I was playing it and I thought, and I don't know the specific song, it just came up and it said Drummer Girl, and I just was engrossed. It just drew me right in right away. Right then, that was it. And I didn't want to do anything else that I was doing. And of course, with what you and I do, we're busy all the time.
Yeah.
At least mentally, if nothing else, right? I have to do this, or I've got to try and do that, or whatever the case may be. But I just thought, I could drop everything, but playing it while you're doing something also kind of brings you to a little bit more peaceful place while you're doing things. So I love it. And you can get this on iTunes. So for all of our audience, please, Drummer Girl.
And an interesting side note too is that I called my friend Bob Cowsill, who lives nearby, and I was like, could you help me out on some of these songs? Because I'm not the best singer. I can sing harmonies, and I have like a really like innate harmony ear, but my voice is not the best sounding voice. Aww. And so I used a lot of my friends that have better voices on a lot of the songs. And Bob sings on like, and plays guitar on like several of the songs. So if you're really listening and you know how the Cowsills sound, you'll hear him. And it was funny because I was playing the tracks for my family, and my sister Amy was just like, you're singing a duet with Bob Cowsill. And I was like, that is pretty weird. That is really weird. Cause like, that was what that's what got me through my childhood, was like, listening to his voice, and now he's singing with me. So that was very sweet of him.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, how that just,
that is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So any kid who's like,
I've got the chills right now as you're saying that, because that sometimes when life, you don't think about things, you go through them. And then when you reflect on it, you're like, I had no idea that this was going to come full circle, right, or reached me to a place where now maybe I can move to a different direction because that has completed that.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yes, this is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. So what have you got going on in the works now, Louise?
So my podcast, Things I Found Online, is available on iTunes. It's on YouTube. We do it on Facebook Live. It's a video podcast like yours. And we're doing episode 77 on Tuesday. And,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're going to have a gentleman named Artie Hoffman, and he's a psychic. So I'm really interested in stuff like this. So I'm like fascinated. Like I watch all of the psychic shows, and like, I'm just fascinated by it. So I'm very interested in meeting him, and that will be on Tuesday. And then as I mentioned earlier, I just did this documentary about Margaret Singer. and it's not available yet online because we're submitting it to film festivals. So it's been winning awards, and it just won another award today. So there's something about her, I think, that makes people, just kind of celebrate life. She's just such a wonderful, and I've become friends with Margaret, and the stuff she says, it's like, I was sitting with her a couple days ago, and I told her what had happened to the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yes.
And she's just sat there and she thought, and then she said, I wonder if a lot of Catholics are going to feel like this is because of something they've done.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, I just looked at her and I said, your mind. And I was just thinking, like somewhere there's some kid who just jerked off for the first time, and Notre Dame goes up in flames, and he's just like, oh my God. But she understands human nature so well.
Yes, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
I wouldn't have thought of that either.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, well, let's just absolve them of all of that, because sometimes.
Well, and her background, though, probably the things that she has seen, and this is going to be amazing film for the audience to see. I really hope that this gets picked up, just like the last film, Family Band, did, and gets Showtime or Amazon Prime or Netflix or Hulu or all of the above.
Well, it's only 20 minutes, so I was thinking sort of like Independent Lens on PBS.
But, they can do all of these big Showtimes, and they can do little features. I've seen different things on documentaries and little feature things in between when they have certain films that they're running in between and they're not running commercials and there's a time break, and they will have these little things, or they'll have small interviews with different celebrities on personal things. I don't know, and it would fit right in there. So I can't see why maybe it wouldn't get picked up and played on all of these different things. So I'm definitely rooting for you on this, and I can't wait to see.
Well, I can send you a link to the trailer. We do have a trailer.
Yes. Yeah. Please do. And if you can get that link to me, I will also make sure that it can go with our show, this show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that way the audience can see it and can get ready for it, and boom, we can get that information out there for you. So I'm so glad that you were with me today. I've really enjoyed having you on the show. I know that the audience has really been able to pick up a lot from you. We've really delivered a lot to them too, and allowed them to get to know you a little bit. And I'm hoping that they will also connect with you in many, many ways, because you're a very talented and impressive woman. And I'm really excited about everything that you have going on. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, Rebecca.
Yes. Tell me and tell the audience where they can connect with you and get in contact with you for anything, whether it's your podcast, any future endeavors, all of that.
So for me personally, I'm Louise Palanker pretty much everywhere across all social media, Twitter, Facebook. And if you're a regular human, I will accept your Facebook friend request.
Regular human.
Yeah. In other words, I get a lot of Facebook friend requests from people where their profile picture is their first post. So it's like, I don't know, they've just made the profile to try and scam people or whatever. But if your Facebook feed looks like normal, I will happily accept your friend request. I'm on Twitter as Louise Palanker. I'm on Instagram, Louise Palanker. I'm at louisepalanker.com. And my podcast, Things I Found Online, is found everywhere online as Things I Found Online podcast. And that's pretty much across all social media platforms as well. And I'm happy to meet all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. This has been such a fun show, and I am so delighted to have brought Louise to you, because I think that she is such an inspiration, and she will motivate you along with all of the things that she's conveying through the documentaries and her podcast. Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. Well, today we're going to talk about some things that are kind of like behind the scenes. Yes, I have a guest today who I am really excited to talk about, who works in, well, a lot of things like post-production and editing, and even more than that. He has got something that I'm going to let him introduce to you because, oh man, it's big and it's exciting, and just not only if once you want to watch it, but before that, when you look at it, you're going to just get engrossed just in looking at the website alone. I got to tell you that. But my guest today has an MFA in film production. Yes, he does, from Chapman University, and a BFA in cinema studies. So he has it going on, I've got to tell you. And not only does he have his education behind him, but he's got a lot of awards and recognitions. He's got best sound designs. He's got a best trailer. Yes, voiceover. Yes. And he's been nominated for best original work as well, for something that I'm going to let him introduce to you, because yes, it's absolutely amazing. And I can't even begin to share the passion about what he's going to share with us today. So without any further ado, I have got to bring to you somebody who is a behind the scenes expert and amazing man with the work that he produces. With us today is Kennedy Phillips. Welcome, Kennedy.
Hi there.
Tell me, oh my goodness, how did you get into behind the scenes production work? This is unbelievably amazing.
Oh, well, I started off at a very young age, I would say. Everybody kind of discuss, like, you spend most of your life trying to discuss what you want to do for the rest of your life, and so on and so forth. And
so true.
I learned at a very young age of what I wanted to do. When I was watching television with my parents, they're like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was watching Nickelodeon, and I looked at the cartoons and I pointed there and I said, I want to do that. I was about like 5 or 6 years old, I think. But
no, but that's pretty amazing.
This was a very welcome change of pace, because I had a very brief stint when I was very young where I wanted to be a taxi driver, and my parents is kind of great. It's really great.
Like, you want to be the cash cab guy?
Perhaps, but but I spent a lot of time working on making movies, like short films, things like that, when I was really young. And my entire life revolved around entertaining people. It wasn't until high school where I discovered how editing really works that I started growing a love for post-production. And college, I developed a real appreciation for sound design when I started doing little small jokey audio dramas for fun in my dorm room while I was doing my cinema studies. Because at the time I wanted to go into film production, but they were like, I couldn't quite get in. So I took a lot of the time better understanding what makes good films, while simultaneously trying to produce my own content.
Okay.
And eventually I went to go to Chapman to get my master's degree in film production to really understand how to be a good editor and to make the movies as best as one can with the right eloquent words as would be appropriate of a educated individual as myself.
I love it. Well, there's a lot in post-production and editing. People think it's really simple, and there's a lot of work that goes into post-production.
My editing teacher at Chapman had said this when we first walked into our editing class. Editors and people in post-production have a very unique gift in that they are the first people to see the film or whatever it is they're making first. They're the ones that get to see it become a thing.
Yes.
A lot of post-production is piecing together all the building blocks, from the cinematography to the writing to the directing and performances of all these people, and bringing them into one solid thing. I mean, like, it's not an easy process. You've seen a lot of people make those very very obvious mistakes at times, but it's just indicative of how challenging it can be when you're in the thicket of it.
Sure. I mean, I know that in our audio and video technical department, when they're doing post-production on our episodes, there's so much that goes into it. And I can't even comprehend all of the things that is done in that. And I just admire everything that you are doing, because your work is absolutely amazing. You have done some work with some very dynamic companies, and now you have not only worked with them, but you've taken all that work and made it into your own company. And so I'd like you to share with the audience a little bit about that, because these are some really big things that have come to your plate.
Well, I would say don't feel too bad about not really comprehending a lot of things about post-production. I'll let you in on a little secret. Many of us in post-production, we can't quite comprehend why things behave the way they do. Computers can be a very mysterious thing.
Thank you.
But in terms of where I got to where I was, we live in a day and age where getting reliable work is challenging.
True.
Studio people want you to have decades of experience as soon as you get out of college. So I took a lot of freelance jobs. I got to work with a couple of really great companies. I've gotten to work with DreamWorks TV for Draw My Dream.
Yes.
I got to work with a Jim Henson company for Amaterasu, which is this gorgeous short film made out of scrap. It was like the goddess of the sun from Japanese lore.
Ooh.
Their tale as told through scrap metal puppets, which was a blast to work on. And I've worked on quite a few things with Melody Gunn on The Institute, which is a James Franco film, Sela and the Gatekeepers of the Arctic, which is a documentary about Alaska. Sorry, no, not Alaska, Greenland. My mistake. It was about
Greenland. Okay.
But one of the frustrating things for me while I was working on this is that pay was difficult.
Okay.
For a lot of salary people, you spend most of your life doing one job that you always can go to and always can and rely on getting that. For somebody like me, I get a job and I'm employed for maybe 2 weeks, and then I have to find another job.
Because that work is done. I mean, you have a project, and that's all they need you for, is that project.
Yeah, and which this can be problematic because you run into all sorts of complications, like the person that's hiring you can't quite pay the amount that they owe you, or change their mind about it, or it's a scam.
Right. Okay.
I have been outright scammed once or twice in my life, which was really hard to stomach. At one point, I was working on a project where it was a total mess. It was one of those kitchen sink dramas where, like, the lady comes home and she wants to talk about the mortgage, and she secretly loves the husband who is also a janitor who's trying his best but can't quite make it. And it's all very, very stock standard kind of things where they go into a kitchen, drink coffee, and talk about their problems. And I said, I kind of pinched the bridge of my nose, and I said, I think I really need to make something of my own.
Mm-hmm. And so is this when you also started doing voiceovers?
I've been doing voiceover for a while, actually. A lot of my voiceover I've been practicing in college, just for the sake of, just for the fun of it. Of course, I only had I had a program called WavePad, which only had one audio track. So when I'd record the audio drama, I'd be having to do all the different characters all at once.
All on your own?
Yeah, it's like, Sensei, what do you have to teach about me today? The lesson that you're going to learn is this. Okay, that's really good. Excellent. Having to do that back and forth was very challenging, because if you mess up one of the takes, if you end up stuttering in the middle of it, you have to start over.
All over.
Well,
there's no splicing, right?
I can splice. I was able to splice a little bit, but it was more I had to keep messing with that, because you couldn't exactly have two tracks to work with.
Okay.
But yeah, I was working with Melody Gun at the time, which is an audio production company that picked me up very shortly after college, which again was mostly freelance work. And I had this idea of going back to audio dramas.
Okay.
I approached Hamed Hokamzadeh, who's the owner of Melody Gun, and I told him, like, hey man, we've got all this sound equipment. We've got all this equipment. We can probably build a really cool audio drama based on all of our skills that we have. And I start talking to him about the series that I have in mind, and I start vomiting word salad at him until he just kind of leans back a little nervously and goes, yeah, sure, like give me a test sample and I guess I'll support it. I don't know.
Okay.
So
of
of course I grab a couple of my friends, drag them into my bedroom, which was my recording studio at the time, and have them start
doing this.
And have them start like doing voices.
Uh-huh.
And we make a test episode for a series called Magus Elgar.
And here it comes. This is what I want the audience to know about, because this is so big.
Magus Elgar is a fantasy comedy inspired by the works of Terry Pratchett. If you're not familiar who Terry Pratchett is, he is one of the most prolific authors in British history.
Boom.
He wrote the Discworld series. He's worked with Neil Gaiman on Good Omens. And he is wicked brilliant and wicked funny. If I was to describe his writing style, it would be Lord of the Rings as told by Monty Python.
Oh my goodness.
He's one of my favorite authors, from books like the Color of Magic to Mort to what was it, The Hogfather and Guards, which was also an audio drama. He passed away not too long ago, a couple years ago.
Okay.
Which was heartbreaking, and it was regrettably before I started trying to work on Magus Elgar. But my series is trying to emulate that tone of humor. It's very tongue-in-cheek, but it's a perfect blend of highbrow and lowbrow, where it's all like very official, very smart-sounding people doing very, very, very stupid things.
And you have when you go directly to that site, you've got the cast, you've got all this information, and it's just engrossing just learning about that, because it's almost like reading a book and then you get to go play in it. It's really neat how you have this set up, and I don't think I've seen anything like this at all. And if my understanding is correct, you have 3 episodes that you are allowing viewers to see.
Yeah. I really wanted to bring my strongest foot forward for this project, because at the time, nobody had heard of me. I did not have a following at all, and I would threaten to say I still don't, but...
Well, do you think that's because when you're working behind the scenes at a big company in post-production, it's not like you're out there or really anybody knows? I mean, you get a lot of credits when the end of whatever rolls by,
yeah,
but
I mean, who pays attention to that?
Right. I mean, at the end, people are getting up and walking out. I mean, like they're putting their popcorn box on the floor and they're out of there, or
that's
whatever.
fine. Like I don't think it's a requirement for audiences to know who's making these productions if they still walk away from it with a positive experience. But
it's important, though, because that is your work, and we all need to really be proud of the things that we do, and we should appreciate those that are doing them and bringing us that enjoyment. And so this is important. So
yeah, anyway, I'm proud of what I've been doing, but it's more of, I'm more interested in people being entertained by it than needing all of my names attached to it. I mean, yes, my name's on the cover, but if they walk away from it and just not know who I am, I'm okay with that.
But it's got to get out there. They've got to know that it's out there. And
yeah, but for Magus Elgar, I went all out on the website to make it look really nice, as best as an amateur web designer could possibly do. and I wanted to show them that, like, just how much there is to have in this series. So I released the first 3 episodes on YouTube, on SoundCloud, everywhere for free, which is the first story arc of the series. Regrettably, I know that we do have it on sale for a relatively cheap amount, but it was mostly due. Most of these audio dramas tend to be released for free as a podcast or something like that. But
Okay.
I went this route because I was funding it myself.
Of course.
And I was putting as much effort and finance into this as I could so that I can make the highest quality product that I knew I was capable of making.
Well, and you should do, with the way your talents are, you should do those things and be able to also get that back as well. And this, if you could tell the audience a little bit about the type of genre and the age range and things like that, so they could really start developing a picture in their mind before they go there. Because I'm going to tell you, it is engrossing when you get to the site.
Magus Elgar is a fantasy comedy meant for people who love Harry Potter, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it was like Red Dwarf was another one of those British comedy shows way back when. It's for people who are aged from 13 or 12 or something to 35 and beyond. If you like fantasy, if you like comedy, if you like fantasy in your comedy, this is a very fun show to listen to when you're driving to work, when you're doing your bike ride, when you're doing your best to get swole with your cardio. And of course, it's also great for those things that are inopportune at times, like operating heavy machinery and the like, because,
Yes. Or putting on your makeup.
But the show is about 2 magi and 2 scientists that travel the magical world of Hearth to collect stamps, scientific tools augmented with magical power. Due to an accident in the first 3 episodes, the enigmatic Dr. Horatio's scientific equipment explodes out into the dimension of Hearth, where all of his scientific equipment starts taking on magical properties. And they have to go and find and recover them before all hell breaks loose as they slowly begin to rip space-time apart as they grow more unstable. What I do love about this series is that we put a lot of effort into our sound design to make it so that when you listen to it, you are fully engrossed in the experience, that you can actually hear where these characters are moving, what they're doing. We had Thomas Auzel, who is one of the main mixers at Melody Gun, help get the proper space to instigate that cetera going on in your head, which is the that mental algorithm you have where you can tell where something is based on distance and time.
Yes.
And that it negates its own presence in its ear. Riveting stuff. You should really read one of those sound design books at some point. So like you're hearing like in one of the first scenes we have like a dragon fight where like the dragon's stomping around. You can hear them like moving around, shooting fire and lightning at our main character, and it's a lot of fun because the characters are all making like terrible puns at each other back and forth as it's all going down, and it's great. It's great. Puns are fantastic.
Well, this sounds like a lot of fun. How long did it take for you to develop this?
Well, part of the problem with Magus Elgar was that I was not a very confident director at first. I did not have a good experience when I went to Chapman learning directing.
Okay.
I made a short film and it did not work out very well. So I had a lot of confidence problems being in charge of a project. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this.
Okay.
That being said, it took time. Mostly because I wasn't getting paid for this.
Okay.
I was putting all of my life savings on this project, and I needed to make sure that I could do it right. So I spent almost 8 months writing this thing.
Okay.
Which took a while because, it was like between jobs and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Which became a little bit longer when I finished my first draft of the story, pulled back, looked at it, surveyed all that I saw, and I said, I hate this. And I scrapped it and started over.
What? Are you kidding me? You didn't even save it?
No, I saved it. Like I saved it.
Okay.
I had a final confrontation in a volcano lair fighting against a big malevolent present robot thing. And I read it and I said, I'm bored. This is awful.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it. But you ended up developing something because you kept going and you wanted to make it better.
It took me like, I would say, about 3 years to get this off the ground.
Okay.
And that is, for anybody that has experience with podcasts, that's ludicrous.
No, but you know what? I mean, when you're developing something and you're perfecting it and you know that it needs something, sometimes even when you take the time to do it the way you want it to, the benefit of it at the end is well worth it. I mean, you want to put something out there when it isn't your best or whatever, and you're giving yourself the chance to prove what you were striving for when you set out with the project from the very beginning.
Yeah, it took me a long time, but a lot of it was, again, handling other contracts and the like, and so on and so forth. But one of the main setbacks about it was that I said I wanted to release this thing all at once, so that people didn't have to wait, so they could binge watch it if they wanted to.
I gotcha.
I don't binge watch. I have no understanding of binge watch, and the whole concept of it unsettles me deeply. But I know that a lot of people really enjoy it, and that is a very regular part of their diet.
I will binge watch. I have to tell you, I am a binge watcher. However, I don't watch a whole lot of television all the time. So when I do have time, and I know that, say I have, 3 hours or something like that, and I find something that's very interesting, I will want to
keep going
of it as I can, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to see the next part of it, and I want to retain all of this in the sequence,
Yeah, it's changed how films and productions are made, because they expect you to binge. So it allows people to get away with longer story arcs, with more intricate details that can be later on. Whereas I personally usually enjoy watching my stuff or going through my stuff in a piecemeal fashion, so I can digest it, so I can appreciate it when I come back to it. I can still follow it, and I'm fine with that. But I mean, that's just how I grew up watching TV as a kid anyway. But I wanted to release this all at once, so that people can do that binge watching thing, and that added a lot of time to it, because I was finished with my first episode for like months.
Okay.
I still couldn't release it.
But that makes sense though too, because if you would have released it and somebody was waiting for the next episode to come out, and it's months and months and months later,
some people would get impatient or other things like that. Some people would think, oh well, I guess it's dead.
Yes. So no, I think that was a smart move on your part.
Yeah, I mean, having the other part of it was that I was debating for a long time about how much this thing would be worth, because I did need to make some kind of return so I can continue making more of it. And so I was like going back and forth about pricing and trying to get everything all figured out, which now we've kind of settled on a price tag of around $8, except on audible.com, which is around 20 or so, unless you have an Audible subscription, which you can just download that easily. But what was nice was that at we signed up with Bandcamp, and they let us choose our rates, and we were able to offer a lot more content. Like if you get the fancy edition on Megas Elgar at store.megaselgar.com, which is through Bandcamp.
Okay.
You can get the soundtrack. You can get the some of the sound effects that I made if you want under a Creative Commons license. You want to use that for yourself, as long as credit me for making the sound.
Yes.
And we have a little bit of bloopers in 1 or 2 bits for some of the earlier episodes.
Oh, how fun!
We also have, like, on the website, we've got like artwork of all of the episodes under the extras. Like we've got the absolutely illustrious Askat Mazambakov from Kazakhstan making pictures of all of the episodes. We have one beautiful painting per episode. And we've got like about 11 episodes of like each like really important bit throughout the series.
How neat is this?
We've also got like trailers and other things like that you can watch that explain about various concepts in the world. Like I got nominated for best trailer for the I cannot remember the name of them right now, but the Telly Awards. There it is. We got a Telly Award for our trailer series called a Primer, where a fictional character, Magus Serling Tentorn, played by yours truly, explains very interesting concepts about the world and how Hearth works.
Okay.
For instance, did you know that if you wanted to become a caster or a magical user in the world of Hearth, you need to search deep within yourself and speak the ancient tongue of Trite to incite a reaction from the elements, the grand abstract and concrete concepts of the world around us, such as fire, ice, lightning, and food comas. And in the language of Trite, which is one of the most thoroughly insulting and offensive languages to the elements, triggers an emotional reaction, and in their attempt to smite you, you channel that into magical energy. So your magic literally comes from insulting the laws of nature.
This is fascinating. So, and is there a certain age group that cannot watch this?
I mean, we've had a couple of like minor crass jokes, but nothing that a PG or a PG-13 movie can't handle. I've tested this with my godson, who is 6 years old, and he absolutely loves this series.
This is fantastic.
And it's just audio, so like you can't even make the excuse of like, oh well, it's got flashy colors and stuff. But
right.
No, I just have lots of explosions.
No, and this is great because when it's just audio, you're taking back to a time when storytelling really allows the imagination to grow. And so I think that this is phenomenal. What you're doing is fantastic. Do you have any other upcoming projects that you have going on that you'd like to share with the audience, or not just yet?
I do. I announced a while back, we finished Megas Elgar and released it in July of last year, 2018. We got nominated for Best Sound Design by the, not Best Sound Design. We got nominated for Best Original Work by the Audio Publishers Association for an Audio Award. And we've gotten a couple of accolades. We're actually going to be showcasing Megas Elgar at the Here Now Festival in Kansas City in June, I believe, from June 7th to June 9th.
Okay.
Which they'll be uploading a lot the first 3 episodes online, but if you don't want to wait for that, you can still listen to it on YouTube. In addition, I've been working very closely with a writing team now. I have a full writing team working with me on season 2 of Megas Elgar.
Yes.
Which I have not acquired the funding for that yet.
Okay.
I'll be working on that somehow if I can find something.
Well, and hopefully the royalties from the first release will allow
it. The royalties from the first release will take a long time because with royalties you don't get nearly as much as you might expect. Because when it comes to that kind of thing, you only get like maybe 10, 20, 25% of the returns.
That's the way it is in publishing with books as well.
Yeah, so you only get like every download is only like pennies on the dollar.
Ouch.
I'm happy people are listening to it. But I'm also working on trying to develop Magus Elgar as an IP in general, because I've heard one major criticism about our series from the very beginning, and it was something that I felt I would never be able to address. But I'm trying to fix it, and that criticism is, I really wish this was animated. So, I'm working with the absolutely phenomenal people over at Has Been Hotel to do a couple of test shorts based on Magus Elgar and the universe that it's in. We're starting really humble and really, really small.
Okay.
Keyword being cheap. At first, and we're going to be like expanding our skill set as we go on and do more ambitious animated shorts. The first one is going to be done within the next couple of weeks.
Excellent.
I actually before I started speaking to you today, I just got the animatic for me to start sound designing, which
I love it.
Design a cartoon.
Yes. Yes, you're probably just like biting at the okay, so go on. This is really exciting. You have a lot going on and a lot of talent behind what you're doing. And the two things that I find just absolutely incredible: you are very humble about this and all of your work, and your biggest goal is to ensure that people are entertained. And this is quite refreshing to hear, because there's so many people out there that don't share that viewpoint. I am one of them. I do everything I can to help bring joy to people. And so this is one of them, by allowing them to learn, my audience to learn a little bit about you and to see if they can connect to you and find more joy through the work that you do. And so I really am so delighted that you were here today and sharing with everyone, allowing them to connect with you, understand a little bit about what goes on in post-production, and to learn about what you have now available to them with 3 shows at no charge. So why don't you share how the audience can connect with you?
Well, if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Magus Elgar, just the name of the show. I don't really have a proper Twitter for myself because I am a rube when it comes to social media. I am on Facebook, among other things. I have my own website, kennedyphillips.org, where you can see some of my other projects and other things like that, as well as contact information, because I do editing, sound design, Foley art, voice acting, lots of post-production things. Yes. And if you want to hit me a line on that, if you've got things that you need help working on or something like that, I don't mind talking. Or if you've got a good idea for something like that, like, I'm usually willing to listen about this kind of thing. If you want to talk about Magus Elgar, we've got a contact information at the website that you can email, or you can sign up for our newsletter and you can hear all the updates of all the fancy things that we're working on, such as the animated series, which will be the animated shorts, which will be dropping at any given point.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being with us today. I am just amazed at your work. And again, thank you so very much.
Yeah, and anytime. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the show.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you want to hear Magus Elgar, please visit maguselgar.com. Find us on YouTube. We're available wherever audiobooks are sold at a reasonable price. It is an 11-episode series, about 5.5 hours in length. There is no possible way that you cannot get your money's worth driving to and from work listening to this show and listening to the dulcet tones of my voice actors and performers, who are all absolutely fantastic at what they do.
Perfect. I loved it. Perfect. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. Please don't forget to share this with all of your friends, family, coworkers, and all over social media.